leads me into the fact that an eating disorder does not have a look. It is not a
Yes.
women's issue at all necessarily. It is not the typical smaller body anorexia stereotype.
Mhm.
Larger bodies often get very overlooked. Binge eating
Yeah.
disorder often gets very overlooked and very associated with a larger body versus a smaller body. And
Mhm.
that's not necessarily true. People of color get so overlooked in this conversation, and the resources are not as strong. The research is not as strong. I was talking
Mhm.
about pregnancy. I tried to find some articles about eating disorders and pregnancy. Don't really exist. They're
No.
not really there. So there's so much misrepresentation of, again, this like vain, tiny body, emaciated
Mhm.
being the face of an eating disorder, but men are so not talked about in the
Yeah.
gym culture and cutting and like all these things that
Mhm.
you're like, if you hear someone talking about it, you're like, that's an eating disorder behavior. And then in these spaces of minorities like that are just not maybe even able to talk about it because it's not acceptable or spoken about, or there's no one that they can turn to that's recovered out in the media or like any of those things. Like there's some representation, but there needs to be so much more to break down the stereotype that an eating disorder has a look. And I know I'm talking about this as somebody who has a look of the stereotype of the eating disorder girl.